Hey guys, we got some absolutely amazing news from last night's debate. Andrew Yang, first time working as a CNN commentator, and he was talking about the debate. There's no media blackout anymore. He's part of the media. Boy, that's absolutely amazing. And in fact, Andrew Yang earns rave reviews for the first day as CNN commentator. He received high praise from political observers for his analysis during his first day as a TV commentator. So CNN announced Wednesday that Yang, an entrepreneur who dropped out of the Democratic race last week after single-digit showings in Iowa and New Hampshire, joined the network as a contributor. So he made his first contributor appearance to discuss about that evening's Democratic presidential debate. The first was the former New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg on the stage. So let's hear what Andrew Yang has to say, and I will make some comments afterwards. It's absolutely amazing. So, in fact, this is the first time Andrew Yang got his TV ads without paying anything. Just think about it. CNN is doing TV ads for Andrew Yang for nothing. They even paid Andrew Yang. What a smart move. What a great strategy.
He's no longer running, but he's got plenty to say about the state of the race for the White House. New CNN political commentator Andrew Yang makes his debut on Anderson Cooper 360. Live next.
So what does each candidate need to do in tonight's debate to maintain viability? As a Democratic presidential candidate, my next guest, Andrew Yang, had plenty of time on the televised debate stage throughout the first stages of the primary battle, and safe to say he has gotten to know most of the candidates pretty well. Andrew Yang left the race after the New Hampshire primary, but to prove there is life after politics, he's joined CNN as a political commentator. We're very happy to have him. I'm happy to discuss tonight's debate with him. Andrew, welcome to CNN. We're very happy that you're joining us. This is obviously the first time that we're going to see Michael Bloomberg on the debate stage. What are your expectations of that?
This is essentially the Bloomberg debate, Anderson. The fact is the other candidates have had 8 debates where they've had their talking points essentially hardwired in. It's almost second nature, whereas for Mike, this is going to be his first time. He's not accustomed to getting hostile questioning on a regular basis. He's not accustomed to getting his past comments on sex and race dragged. So it's going to be a real test of temperament and even humility for Mike tonight. And the question is whether he can take the slings and arrows that are coming his way in stride.
That's one of the things, that people don't realize is running for president, as you well know, it makes you get better at it as you go. Being in town halls in New Hampshire and Iowa and elsewhere and being on debate stages, and it teaches you a certain amount of humility, and you're taking questions from all sorts of people and reporters. Mike Bloomberg hasn't done that for a very long time, and he's been in a somewhat rarefied ecosphere of a multi-billionaire.
Yeah,
Do you think he knows what he's getting into?
Well, he has a very, very strong team. And if I'm his team, I've been coaching him to take hostile questioning with ease and coolness and then pivot to talking points about his record and his message. If I were his team, I'd be playing him like that Zen, music before he gets on the debate stage just to try and chill him out. Because the big challenge for him is to
You wouldn't go
express...
for like Metallica or, Nine Inch Nails or something?
No. He has to try and be presidential and keep his cool through everything. For him, the pitfalls are if he expresses irritation or contempt. And the fact is he's going to have a lot of contempt directed at him. He has to react with the opposite.
What does it say to you about the support for Bernie Sanders that Mike Bloomberg, without actually being in the race, although spending a huge amount on television commercials, in 2 new national polls is behind Sanders, is in the number 2 spot? The fact that somebody who hasn't even really been running is supposedly, according to these 2 polls, on the national level, number 2. What does that say about the support for Sanders?
Well,
And the concern about
after all
Sanders?
of the attacks that are going to be leveled against Mike tonight, the second target is going to be Bernie because he's the front runner at this point. He's almost certainly going to win Nevada. And the other candidates are going to try and bring down the front runner. I'd expect attacks on Bernie tonight on his electability, his health, the online followers of his that have some bad tendencies, even his family's financial histories or dealings. Like, anything is going to be fair game, because many of the other candidates are being told that it is not acceptable to have an okay debate tonight, that they have to draw blood on either Mike or Bernie, or produce something spectacular in terms of a moment. Because the other candidates can see if Bernie wins Nevada, which he's expected to, it's going to be harder and harder for them to make the case.
Bloomberg was awful. The notion, even for a Mike Bloomberg, that you can step in and go toe-to-toe on this stage with people who've been doing it, what, Andrew Yang, for a couple of years?
Yes, a couple
for
of
a couple of years. It seems to me that that was difficult for him.
Andrew Yang, you know the field the best. You know what it's like on that stage. What was the read?
Well, I think three things happened to Mike tonight. Number one, he just found out he'd make the debate yesterday. There were two times when I wasn't sure if I was going to make the debate, and my team got me together to prepare. And you're really not sure if you're preparing, because you're like, I'm not sure if I'm going to be in this debate. So Mike, even though he was, I'm sure, getting coached and prepared, he was like, I don't know if I'm going to be in this debate. And so I don't think he was coached hard enough. Number two, he was clearly instructed to keep his cool no matter what, but that ended up presenting as being lethargic and uninterested for a big chunk of the debate. And the third most telling thing is that if I'm his team, you know he's going to get a stop and frisk question, like a gender discrimination or mistreatment question. So you coach him and you have him give you 60, 75-second answers over and over again until he can do it in his sleep. And the fact that he did not have those answers at his fingertips lets me know categorically he was not properly prepared for this debate.
Well, they say they coached him on all of those issues. So,
and that he had extensive debate prep with real mock debates, with his aides playing all the roles of all the people.
Listen, this was a disaster for Bloomberg.
Andrew, let me come back to you. There's a difference, and you guys know this very well, between being prepped and accepting the preparation. Do you believe that Bloomberg doesn't know how to answer these questions, or doesn't accept what his team wants the answers to be? There's a meaningful distinction.
There really is a distinction, Chris, and it's very apt, because you can only be coached if you're willing to be coached. I mean, everyone who works for Bloomberg works for Bloomberg. So there's no one that could be like, hey, Mike, like you have to, like, yeah, that was terrible. You have to do it again. We're going to videotape you and show it to you.
Did that happen with you?
Not let him. Yes, that happened to me. And then you don't let the person leave the room. And the people who are working with me worked for me too, but like, they knew that I was coachable. Like, if they were like, hey, Yang, like, that was not great. Here, we'll show it to you. Like, let's like do it again. Then I'd be like, all right, let's do it again. And there were times I did not want to be there at all. But like in Mike's case, if he didn't want to be there, he's not going to be there. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's no one on his team who can be like, that was terrible. This is going to potentially damage your campaign to a very, very high degree. And you need to not, and I know this is the case because I saw him on stage. Like, if you get the obvious question and you don't pivot to this memorized script that your team has hammered into you, then you just did not get prepared, or you were not willing to prepare yourself.
He did, but he wasn't ready for the follow-up.
But I have to tell you something. You have to think about it in terms of willingness versus readiness. Warren has been identified as the best political athlete on the stage. Love you, brother. But I'm saying in terms of, you know, what she can do skill for skill, toe to toe, it has not resonated.
The quote is, I don't think there's a chance of the senator beating President Trump. If he goes and is the candidate, we'll have Donald Trump for another 4 years, and we can't stand that.
Andrew, is that true?
Well, that's his argument, and there are a lot of Democrats.
You agree with the argument?
There are a lot of Democrats who are concerned that if you have Bernie at the top of the ticket, it's going to mean a very, very tough night in a lot of swing states.
Do you think it's a fair concern, or do you think it's more about what they're used to versus watching a movement in their midst?
I think it's a fair concern based upon the polling data that shows that Bernie will underperform in various swing states the Democrats highly, highly value. I want to tell a Mike Bloomberg story, because we were talking about how he hasn't had all these days in the town halls and the living rooms and whatnot. Back when he was considering running, more than 12 months ago, he actually took trial trips to New Hampshire and Iowa to see if he could relate to the people. And he concluded that it was not his thing. And then he said, "Hey, I'm not running," and it was only more recently that he changed his mind on that. So he's a very smart, data-driven guy. He went and got the data, and the data was not very promising at that point. And I think, unfortunately, that manifested itself tonight on the debate stage.
Back then,
Bernie versus Bloomberg. I think whatever happens tonight, what you're seeing is that there's a judgment on this party. And, frankly, one of the people I had the most hope in is you, because you had a different set of ideas. But the people should be looking in the mirror in this party to figure out what is going on here, because we should have other choices than just these two outsiders.
We're back here with the power players. We shouldn't lose all sensitivity. Andrew, this is you watching it in a totally different way now that you joined the CNN team. What is it like for you watching it up there on stage and the feeling of what if I had been there versus being here? What's that like?
Well, certainly miss being on the debate stage on many levels. But we were talking about Mike Bloomberg's experience and how I actually anticipated he was going to have a tough night, in part because of the timing of his qualification, and then looking at his campaign schedule, where if you're campaigning, and then someone says, hey, we've set aside this time to prepare for the debate, it's actually very hard to get into debate mode. Like it's almost like another mindset. And to me, the big mistake they made, and this is going to sound, possibly controversial, but I thought they should have advised him to skip this debate. I thought they should have just said, look, I'm not on the Nevada ballot. This is going to confuse voters. We'll see you in the next one. And then some people would have given him a hard time about it, but then he would have had a genuine runway to actually try and get, frankly, prepared to have a better night. And to me, that was the missed opportunities. They should have just said, look, like, I'm going to skip Nevada.
You know who agrees with you? The campaign.
Yeah,
he said, right. He just put out a statement saying about Bloomberg, he was just warming up tonight. We fully expect Mike will continue to build on tonight's performance when he appears on the stage in South Carolina next Tuesday.
Oh, that's devastating.
Yeah,
I mean, usually your inbox is full of every candidate saying that they
Well,
have
it does start by saying you're a winner when you're drawing
statement.
attacks from all the candidates.
Right.
But that's the most important
That's
part
very
of the
modest
statement.
spin.
That is D-spin, I think.
For the first 8 debates,
They didn't.
it was kid gloves. I mean, they didn't go
Mickey
really
Mouse
good.
Club.
There were a couple of shots, but not really much.
There goes the
It was
fans'
mostly
idea,
about
doesn't
Trump, right?
Yeah, I agree with
But-
Terry that a lot of them were coached that, look, let it all hang out tonight. This
Yeah.
could be
Oh,
our
yeah.
last debate. This is existential. We're all good. You have to. And it actually showed in some of their performance. Like, you could tell Elizabeth was very, very
Elizabeth-
fired up.
Elizabeth was like, tonight I settle all family business.
What is the best way to measure what the impact of a night is? And not surprisingly, Andrew Yang said, I'll tell you what's going to matter. And interestingly, Bloomberg's asset is money. You're saying that's what matters after the debate. What has to happen for someone to know that it worked for them?
Well, I thought Elizabeth Warren had a tremendous night. They announced they raised $425,000 in the first hour of the debate. But that means that she's going to raise probably $1, $2, $3, $4 million in the days after the debate. And she needs to raise 20, 30, 40 million if she's going to contend in the Super Tuesday states that have very expensive media markets. That's why Bloomberg has so much power in this race, is that he can put ads up in all these states that every other candidate is not going to be able to afford.
People don't have any money. You're shaking your head. You know this story.
I do.
And who has the money to compete other than Bernie Sanders right now and Michael Bloomberg?
That's the great question, is could Elizabeth or Joe or Amy or Pete have some kind of breakout night that led to tens of millions of dollars in donations, not just from people watching at home, but also donors who are on the sidelines right now, frankly, getting phone calls from Mike Bloomberg saying, hey, sit this one out. I got this. And if you're a donor, not donating is actually a pretty appealing pitch.
I'll do it.
Wait, I'm sorry. Wait, can you say that again? Mike Bloomberg is calling donors saying, don't give to my opponents?
Mike Bloomberg is calling donors saying, hey, just sit this one out. I've got this. I'll bankroll the whole thing. Just don't donate to anybody.
You hear this? You know this.
Yeah.
I heard this from a major donor say that
Like your donor.
yes, like a donor said that, and it's a person who donates to a number of candidates ordinarily said that these are the phone calls that Mike.
It's one of the rule changes in the game now is that when you say something, we don't just say, are you sure? We say, where'd you hear it? Because on the analysis side, we got to make sure we're putting something out that we can verify. So Andrew is, of course, correct that you have to manifest your success in money. Bernie Sanders' party about billionaires should go, and obviously Mike Bloomberg giving a different perspective. Andrew, how did it play for you?
And I also want you to look at the way that Van Jones looked at Andrew Yang when he was talking. Oh man. So Van Jones. So it was like Alex looking at Andrew Yang. Do you remember this video? I put the link below in the description. So the way she looked at him was like she was falling in love with him. Okay, and I have exactly the same feeling when Van Jones was looking at Andrew Yang during that when he was talking.
You know, to me, it's a struggle for the soul of the Democratic Party, and it mirrors what happened to the Republican Party in the last cycle, where you had Donald Trump, the outsider, who's running roughshod over all these traditional candidates who were putting up Republican talking points, and it turned out that their ideas just weren't that powerful anymore. And this time you have Bernie, the outsider, the front runner now, poised to run the table. And the establishment's been looking around for a white knight, and Bloomberg has shown up with all of his money, all of his wealth, all of his TV ads. And to me, this was a great night for Bernie because Bernie emerges as the front runner. He's really hard to touch, Bernie. I mean, like, I've been on the debate stage with him, 7 times, and he's just like a stoic messenger. Like, it doesn't matter what you say to him, he'll just pivot right back to one of his Bernie-esque talking points. And then the minute passes.
Okay, and he was like, God, this is the man that should be on the stage instead of all these clowns. So Van Jones must be thinking, this is my president right here, but he's not on the debate stage.
Elizabeth Warren, that was a taste of what she did basically to everybody on that stage, once again proving that she is arguably the best political athlete that the party may have. But the question becomes, is what you just saw enough to make her money in a position where she can be competitive? Let's take it to the bigger minds. Now, Andrew, you've been giving us the practicality of this. A little bit of update in what we understand. The Bernie Sanders campaign posted the best fundraising night of any debate yet. 2.7 million, they say, from 150,000 donations. It's according to spokesperson Casca. The Elizabeth Warren campaign had its best fundraising day ever, according to a tweet from Caitlin Mitchell, Warren's chief mobilization officer. More than $1 million during the debate.
Yeah, those are really impressive sums. The question is whether she's going to get another $1 million in the hours after the debate, and then another $1 million, and then another $1 million, and then another $1 million. Because the advertising buys she would need to make in some of the big markets on Super Tuesday are really expensive, like California, Texas. I was just sharing an anecdote about how the Bloomberg campaign has just been hoovering up staff from every campaign, including mine, paying way above market rate. They're almost like a big company that's doing roll-ups or acquisitions, but the acquisitions are actually political staff. And you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if many of the candidates on the stage tonight were losing staff to Bloomberg because he's offering 150 to 200% of what the market rate is essentially at every level.
So it's not just the advertising. I think people think about him. They're talking about, he's buying up all the ads. He's buying up all the talent in the Democratic Party. I've heard that that's actually causing some problems. People trying to run for state senate and stuff like that. They can't
really hurting down ballot candidates.
Can't even.
What I've heard.
But they have to want to work for him, right? Or is the money enough where they're just going to work for him just so that they get through the cycle?
If you're a political operative, I mean, you work for a lot of candidates. Yeah, really.
Wow.
Bloomberg, I think, got really wrong. He was really tone deaf on some of these questions around class, around income. Really he said, when he said, I worked really hard, and that's why I have all this money. You know what, buddy? There's a lot of people
who work really
who are
hard.
working really hard,
less than $60 billion.
who don't have all that money. When he had the little thing around, I can't possibly figure out a way to, count all my money.
At this stage, we've only had 2 contests. Right. They are trying to dig down to their supporters.
What's getting late early, Terry? It's getting late early.
It is late early, but hold on. It's late early for us also. So let's get in one more break here. And when we come back, we're going to have
stayed in.
Maybe Yang's going to get back in the race. Stay tuned for the answer to that question right after this.
That Cuomo money.
Yeah, you have to shoot ads. You have to make the media buy. You need some lead time. To me, a lot of the problem is that you have several moderates who are congesting the lane where Bernie is capped out at around, let's call it 25 to 30%. But then because you have Joe and Amy and Pete all in there and Mike now, like, you need to consolidate that group of 4 candidates. But then who gets out for who?
Right.
Like, it's a collective action problem, and each of them has obviously a team that has zero interest in saying, like, we're going to get out for another candidate. But if they all stay, then you can see Bernie running away with this.
Do you get out, Elizabeth? Or, I mean, not Elizabeth. Do you get out Amy, or do you get out Pete? Or do you get out Joe? Or, well, Bloomberg doesn't have to sit at that table. It's never going to happen, right?
Never.
No, at this point, they're all equally plausible candidates.
Right.
They're also kind of equally cash-strapped, right?
I'll tell you that these conversations are going to start heating up over the next 1 to 2 weeks, because they're seeing the same calendar. It's like almost like this wall, and they're like this wave that's about to crash into it. So they're having much more serious conversations. You could tell from tonight that they were all told, look, this could be make or break for your campaign. And if you're in that mode, then honestly, I think we're going to see some of these candidates having very, very tough conversations, hopefully even with other campaigns.
You were part of that club until recently.
Yes, I was.
Do you see what Gloria just suggested? I mean, which is very logical. Ever happening? The people who are there remaining in the congested lane that you discussed, having a meeting and saying, let's talk about
I'll get out.
Who's going to stay in?
No, I don't see it. I know the people involved, like that they don't have those kinds of relationships with each other. And again, they each have a team of dozens, hundreds of people that have interests that are very much the opposite direction, because they're all trying to think, hey, if my person becomes the president or VP, then, we're going to have this job, that job, that job. like this is still the hope and the dream. So it's going to be tough to get them all together. But if they don't come together in some way, then I think the timing is going to end up working out for Bernie.
Exactly what happened in 2016 with the Republican Party.
Andrew Yang, my favorite group, Tribe Called Quest, has a line. You're a box of positives. You're a big plus, love.
Oh, well,
thank you very much for joining the team.
Here.
You are value added.
All right. So primary rival piled on Bloomberg in the debate, attacking his record supporting stop and frisk policing policy, which violated the Fourth Amendment, allegations of sexist comments towards women in the workplace, and his strategies to spend his own personal fortune on his presidential bid. Like Andrea said, the fact that he did not have these answers at his fingertips lets me know, categorically, he was not properly prepared for the debate. I mean, how could he? I mean, he just knew he got qualified 1 day before the debate. And like Andrea said, Bloomberg actually should not have attended the debate. I mean, it would have been a winning strategy if he stayed out of the debate stage, because he's totally unprepared, and, he knew that he is going to be targets of all the other candidates. So Yang wore his signature math pin, which stands for the campaign slogan, "Make America Think Harder." Many political observers enjoyed Andrea's to-the-point analysis. Come on, this is the man who has been on the debate stage for how many times? It's like 7 times. He only missed 1 debate, and he said that was the last debate I'm going to miss. He's absolutely right, because he didn't miss this debate. Right? He made it to this debate, and he actually got more speaking time than he would have when he were on the debate stage. This is absolutely amazing. Okay, so Casey Neistat said, CNN made a great decision to bring on Andrew Yang as political commentator. His candid speaks like normal people speak, and I really like hearing what he has to say about stuff. Wow. It's annoying and utterly unbelievable when candidates insist Democratic voters will support whoever is the nominee. That's just wrong. So some refreshing honesty from Andrew Yang just now at CNN. I think it would be tough to galvanize Bloomberg voters behind Bernie and vice versa. There's polling showing that almost half of Andrew Yang's supporters, or a significant portion of Andrew Yang's supporters, are going to vote for Trump. Okay, think about it. It's absolutely wrong that the voters would just support whoever is nominee. I mean,
if this boils down to a race between Bernie Sanders and Michael Bloomberg, I mean, it could not be a more stark. I mean, it's sort of if you were writing this as a screenplay, you know, the guy who's campaigning
These would
against
be the characters,
the
yes.
impact of the impact of billionaires on our system, and to have a billionaire being the one running against him, dropping huge amounts of money in the race. Do you see Sanders supporters? I mean, Bernie Sanders has said, look, he'll support whoever is the Democratic nominee. He said that before Bloomberg was in the race, but subsequently he says he still would support Bloomberg. But clearly that would be a tough pill for him to swallow. And do you think his supporters would come out and vote for Bloomberg?
Well, I think you're right that Bernie and Mike represent in some ways the two extremes of the party. And I think it's going to be tough to galvanize Bernie supporters behind Bloomberg and vice versa. Certainly, I'm going to support whoever the nominee is, and I think that both Bernie and Mike have said they do the same. But it's one thing to say you're going to support the nominee, and it's another for your millions of supporters to go out to the polls and fight as hard as they would for you. So I think this is going to be a real issue for the Democratic Party, and I think there's going to be a lot of soul searching in the days ahead, trying to figure out how to bring the party together, regardless of who is the nominee. And of course, you can't rule out the other candidates, but right now, Bernie's the front runner with Bloomberg coming up quickly.
If you pick up the wrong nominee, like Bloomberg or, you know, even Joe Biden or Bernie Sanders, I mean, some supporters could go the other way. Yang campaigned on providing universal basic income of $1,000 a month to every American citizen, adults, right, to combat changing economic factors brought on by technological automation. And he claimed is that technological transformation, right, the fourth industrial revolution, that automated away millions of jobs in all the swing states that Democrats needed to win, so they lost to Trump, right? That's what got Trump elected in the first place. And the unconventional candidate has an unusually positive and upbeat attitude on the campaign trail and inspired a young gang of followers. At one point during the post-debate analysis, fellow CNN commentator Van Jones mourned Young's exit from the Democratic presidential field. The one I had the most hope in is you, because you had a different set of ideas. So if you listen to what Van Jones said when Andrew Yang suspended his campaign, he was almost cried. He had the same tone as Tucker Carlson, right? He saw Andrew Yang was the only genuine candidate running. He was the one that has the real chance of beating Donald Trump. And okay, every list of winners tonight needs to include Andrew Yang, who's now a CNN contributor. And I've been watching him crack himself up on the seven-person panel, and nobody interrupts him, and he has insightful things to say. Exactly. I mean, if you just look at other people when Andrew Yang spoke, they were like, we have to listen to this guy. I mean, he's telling, truly insightful ideas. His opinions are just so insightful. So, Andrea is really great on a panel as an analyst. And with one tweet at Andrea proves to be just accurate and insightful than a year's worth at CNN political analysts. Absolutely. Former presidential candidate Andrew Yang making his debut as a CNN political commentator says Senator Bernie Sanders goes into tonight's debate as the front runner, with Michael Bloomberg coming up quickly. Wow. So, like I said, this is a great strategy. I mean, if you think about, from a big data analysis point of view, right? If you look at Andrew Yang's current Twitter, so he only had 1.2 followers. By the way, I'm really happy that Andrew Yang still listed himself as 2020 U.S. presidential candidate. He has not, completely quit it yet. So he suspended his campaign, but he could unsuspend it if, the prime time comes and if numbers tells a different story. Okay, he quit it because he didn't have the financial resources to continue. Let's be honest, it's a money race basically, and that's why you see, Bloomberg is up and rising. I mean, he has unlimited amount of money. I mean, just think about how much money he's already spent. He's already spent like something like over $300 million, and that's like, all other campaigns combined that order of magnitude, right? And that's exactly why we need Andrew Yang's democracy dollars. So even the most successful campaign, like Bernie Sanders, right, would need people power money in order to counteract, in order to confront billionaires like Michael Bloomberg or Tom Steyer. Otherwise, you never. I mean, just from the financial point of view, you're never gonna compete. You're never gonna beat them. Okay. I think Bernie would start to think, if he thinks harder, right? If other candidates think harder, they would realize democracy dollars is actually the best policy to, defeat or to, corruption, right? To restore democracy. And so, okay, Andrew Yang only has 1.2 million followers on Twitter. Let's face fact, his Twitter followers is not even comparable. It's only one half of, 60% of what Chuck Todd has. I mean, think about it. I mean, if you look at the number of views of my videos, those with Chuck Todd has even higher viewership, right? Number of views than Andrew Yang's. Just a fact. And the ones with Tucker Carlson, same thing. And Tucker has 2.9 million followers. That's, more than twice of Andrew Yang. And that's why I think, Andrew Yang becomes a CNN commentator is a brilliant move. I mean, he needs this kind of visibility. He doesn't have the money, doesn't have the name recognition he needed to win. And that's why he seeks to, change his role and, save some money, right? Because every day he runs a campaign, he's probably burning $1 million or something like that. Whereas now he's, not spending any money, but he even earn some money, but that's not a factor. The most important thing is that he has this visibility, that he wouldn't have got. I mean, CNN even made TV ads for him for free. And if you think about the person he needs to beat, right? Donald Trump has 72 million viewers, right? Has 72 million followers. So, you have to be a monster like that. You need to do something special, something unusual. I mean, and think about what Donald Trump did before. Donald Trump was a reality TV star, and that's what got him the the kind of name recognition he needed. So I think Andrew Yang is definitely making a brilliant move. And so back to the last night's debate. Okay. So Donald Trump tweeted, okay, meaning Mike Bloomberg's debate performance tonight was perhaps the worst in the history of debates. And there have been some really bad ones. He was stumbling, bumbling, and grossly incompetent. If this doesn't knock him out of the race, nothing will. Not so easy to do what I did. Okay. It was hilarious, but I have to agree to Donald Trump to some degree. And I'm going to play this. The performance of Bloomberg last night, it was really, really bad. He was grilled by, other candidates, especially Elizabeth Warren. Okay. Elizabeth Warren did a wonderful job. I have to say that. And that is something Andrew Yang should learn from. Okay. He should learn from Elizabeth Warren how she destroyed Bloomberg. He needs to learn from even Tulsi Gabbard, how Tulsi Gabbard destroyed Kamala Harris. Okay, that's what you need in a debate. Okay, that's what people expect to see. Like, the hope to defeat Donald Trump, a figure like Donald Trump, a talk show star, reality TV star. So yeah, that's and even Twitter. I mean, I think Andrew Yang could learn something from Donald Trump. I mean, the way that, Trump phrased it, he's really good at getting people's attention and even in debates, right? So it's actually better to say more things that's, offensive than to be, just I'm just talking about my policies and I'm not attacking anyone. I know that's Andrew Yang's style, but I hope Andrew Yang's advisors, right, political advisors, debate advisors, coaches would teach him, would show him, if he ever goes to the debate stage again, would show him how to, talk about other people in a way that will gain visibility, gain, viewership, right? All he needs now is the name recognition, okay? He should do everything possible to gain name recognition. And that's what he's doing now. That's wonderful. But not enough. I mean, just look at the number of Twitter followers you have. I mean, these are the people, majority of people are your supporters. I mean, some are maybe trollers. But, you need to grow your base. That's the whole point, okay? It's not okay if you have less followers than these pundits, these media pundits, like Tucker Carlson, Chuck Todd. You're not going to win with that size of a base. All right, so that's it for today. Let me know what you think, or if you have any suggestions to Andrew Yang, or anything you worth sharing. Please leave your comments below. Like and subscribe, and recommend our best videos to people. And it's so important that more people get to know him and his message, because once they listen to him, the conversion rate is really, really high. I have to say that. I mean, it's somebody even commented, Andrew is addictive, right? If you actually listen to him, his message, it makes you smarter. I mean, just that makes you think harder, makes you, smarter, right? He's the truth teller. He's telling us what the future will be like, and he has the best solutions for tackling the plague, the disease of our society. It's just that so many people are short-sighted, and, so many people are so eerily informed. We have to do whatever we can to get the message out, to get people to listen to him. Okay, that's the only thing we need to do. All right. Thank you.